Hi, my name's Katrina. Welcome to my studio and to my channel. This is going to be a brief introduction to my colour mixing course. This is a course that I'm teaching on the basics of colour mixing from a watercolour perspective. And we'll just cover some of the basics of the colour wheel and why you might want to do a process like this. The goal of this is not to tell you exactly what colours you should have in your palette, but more give you the tools and the understanding of how to investigate the colours you have and see if there's any additions that could be made to expand and to better understand the scope and limitations of the colours that you actually have before you add anything new. So some of the things we're going to cover are going to be the concept of a split primary colour chart, warm triads, cool triads, primary and secondary colour charts, how to mix greys and neutrals with different mixes, and the use of complementaries to mix greys and neutrals. But first off, one of the most important concepts is the colour wheel. So the colour wheel, we mostly think of it as being developed by Isaac Newton in about 1660s. It's been through various iterations and concepts to rearrange the colours. So you'll probably be most familiar with this kind of a colour wheel, where we have a primary red, primary blue, primary yellow, and then we have secondary colours of green, orange and violet. Now, this is a good framework to hang our knowledge of colour on. It's a good way of sorting our colours, but it's not necessarily the most helpful when it comes to mixing pigments within paints. So what I personally find more useful is the concept of the cyan, magenta, yellow colour wheel. So that's what this particular colour wheel is. So we can actually mix the secondary colours of red, blue and green from our primaries of magenta, cyan and yellow. This just is a more flexible paint mixing chart to work with. So we're going to be working along the concept of the cyan, magenta and yellow as being our colour wheel. The other things that we're going to be talking about is what's a complementary colour. A complementary colour is simply the colour that's opposite one on a colour wheel. So having a colour wheel like this really helps make it easy for you to see quickly and easily which are your complementary colours. Now, when we're talking about warm and cool colours, generally this is sort of how they're divided up. So a warm colour tends to be sort of your yellows and oranges and reds, and cool tend to be your blues, greens to violets. Except it's also a relationship. It's not necessarily this colour is only ever warm or this colour is cool. So colours can be warmer or cooler than another colour. For example, this yellow could be considered warmer than this green, but it could also be considered cooler than this orange. So think of your warm and cool as more of a relationship as opposed to a fixed constant. Now, the other thing to contemplate is colour wheels can come in different shapes and different forms, and they serve different purposes. One of the most useful colour wheels from an artist perspective, this is a colour wheel developed by an artist by the name of Stephen Quiller. And he has come up with this fabulous chart which actually maps where specific painter's colours appear around the outside of a wheel. So things are not necessarily evenly distributed. And also he uses the centre of the wheel to place earth tones. And the advantage of this is colours that appear directly opposite neutralise to a neutral grey. So this is a really useful tool for an artist to learn how to easily work out what's going to neutralise, and also colours that appear directly on a line between each other can be mixed by those two colours. So you don't always have to use the same colours to mix to be able to create a particular colour. There are many ways to mix many different colours, and this is just a tool that can help you guide along the way to determine that. The other colour wheel that I find particularly useful, this is a colour wheel developed by an artist, Bruce McAvoy, and he's created a website called Handprint. Now this is one of the most valuable painting resources that's out there. I'd highly recommend you have a look at the information that's there. I'll provide a link in the notes so that you can, if you haven't been there, you'll be able to do it. Now, very similar to the wheel developed by Stephen Quiller, except he sort of spreads them out more into, I guess, a plate rather than a distinct circle. And I find that this wheel is really good for troubleshooting, like when you're not sure why you're not achieving the mixes that you're anticipating you should be able to. Often using a colour wheel like this can help you figure out why that's happening. So this is actually a really useful troubleshooting colour wheel, I find. But we'll have a look at this further on in the course, so I look forward to you joining me, and hopefully you'll have some fun mixing colours, learn something, and explore the colours that you own. So, hope to see you soon. Bye.